Welcome to Frankly Speaking Hurricanes Football with your host, Frank Mazdu. Well, everybody, I want to welcome you to Frankly Speaking Canes Football with my brother, Robert, secret agent man, Robert Powell. You sign up. And we're so excited to have Robert on the show today. We've got a lot to talk about, and Robert has a lot of knowledge as it pertains to what's going on. And he's been one of the guys that have been opining for many, many years that the talent, while it is important, the most important piece has been coaching. So with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put share on our screen.
Which is really interesting. Mm-hmm. What was your perspective of them playing them and now close up, up close in person?
Well, it's always going to be, when you look at a team like Miami, it's always going to be a very talented team, a very fast team, and very strong team. So, when you look at what you're seeing out here and we're just continue to get better and better, it looks very promising. We're extremely happy with the process and the progress of our players. And that's something that everyone is excited about.
What did you know about Tyler, Jake, Jakari before you got here, and what are some things you learned about them the last minute?
So when I was at another school, I recruited all three of them. So I got to know them a little bit, and they're always fantastic young men. And sure enough, when you step in the meeting with them, they're extremely bright, extremely smart kids. And you could tell just the way they drive, they want to get better every single day, and they listen, they're coachable, and it's a pleasure to coach them.
Can you say something about each one individually, a little special about each one?
Sure. So Tyler is a young man that I got to spend some time before at another school, and very intellectual young man. He's always very asks questions, and he's always looking to get better and always wants to know why. And I think all three of them are like that. But Tyler is again, a guy that watches a lot of film and understands what we're doing. And has picked it up tremendously fast. Jay Garcia the same way. He's a very smart kid and very very well coached. And you watch him, and he's always in the office asking questions and watching film and trying to get better as well. And Jakari's a younger kid, and he's right now it's sometimes goes a little bit fast for him, but he's starting to catch on, and he's improving. Today he had a great day, so we're very happy with his progress. Extremely satisfied with what we saw today with JB, and we're excited about the entire group.
It's a very South Florida coaching staff. I mean, you're a Miami guy, Miami guy. Everyone we're talking to today is from South Florida. I mean, what's like just coaching on a staff where half it seems like most everyone's from South Florida.
It's like family. That's the whole atmosphere. A lot of these guys I've known for many years. I either coached against them when I was coaching high school and just growing up here, or played against them in high school as well. So some of these guys I coached with before. So it's family. I know every single one. A lot of the guys here and the guys that come in is just blended in with them. Just great people, and happy to come every day to work with them.
Who did you play against in high school?
Coach Cristobal and Alex.
Do you remember what the results of those?
I do remember. I'll let you ask them.
You coached with them.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Have they changed their approach and their match?
Yes, sir. We're all gotten older and wiser, I can say, and you can see it in Coach Cristobal himself. And obviously, he's been through some excellent programs and head coaches that he's worked with. And Alex, same thing. Just being around other programs and other coaches, you just learn so much being in other parts of the country. Then you come back here and you kind of teach those things that you've learned and gotten better yourself as a coach, and you continue to grow as an individual and in the profession. So, and we're learning. We learn every day. We got some really bright coaches on our staff, extremely bright. And I'm learning from them every single day, just like hearing them talk in the meetings and so forth.
The last couple of quarterbacks coaches that have also been the offensive coordinator. You were offensive coordinator. Now you're just quarterbacks coach, Cassidy, right?
Yes.
What's the difference when you're just the quarterbacks coach / Cassidy and not the receiver?
Well, the main difference is you don't call plays, but you as a quarterback.
Robert, I want to interject here for a minute because I've obviously previewed this before. He's coming up on a couple points that you and I discussed with in the past, which are extremely important. He was the OC over at Appalachian, and basically he's coming to be just the quarterback's coach. And we have the same thing on the defensive side of the ball with Charlie Strong, and he's the co-defensive coordinator and linebackers coach. So with Frank Ponce, he's not co-offensive coordinator because Mattis is the exclusive offensive coordinator. But you had mentioned to me in many of our conversations that one of the nice things that we see is the continuity that we have, because Charlie Strong is only going to be here a year, maybe two, and he's going to get a head coaching job. That Mattis may be here a year, maybe two at the most, and he's going to get a head coaching job. So when you got two caliber guys that can slip in, Charlie Strong might slip in if Steele moves to be a head coach and become our DC. Frank may slip in and take the OC if Mattis, I think it's just a matter of time. He's going to be he's the next big thing for head coaching hires, coming as an OC from Michigan. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, because you had mentioned it to me. It's not enough to bring in some good coaches. You have to have continuity behind those coaches. And I wanted to get your thoughts on that, because you've got a strong business background and you know about continuity of services and continuity of culture and continuity of teams. So give me your thoughts.
Yeah. So it's interesting that you bring that up, or that we've talked about this in the past. And just recently, and I'll make just a short story here. The company I work for, I restructured the organization that I'm head of, right? And the primary reason for the restructure was that there wasn't bench strength. There wasn't that continuity of duties, right? So if one person was to leave, the organization would be stretched. It will be a challenge. All right. So let's tie this into what Mario has done. Other than the talent that he's brought in from a coaching perspective, what he has done is absolutely brilliant from a continuity standpoint. If you look at the folks who are heading up the key positions in coaching and who is sitting behind them, from a strategic standpoint, what he's doing is building the redundancy, the continuity, the future view of the organization from the standpoint of, if the DC was to leave, there's someone right behind them, right? If Charlie Strong was to leave, hopefully he's mentoring and building up the next person. So these aren't just a bunch of, wow, high profile, the best coaching staff, all that. Okay, rightfully so. But from a strategic long-term viewpoint, what he's done is really attempted to build an organization so that if any one person was to leave in any of those key positions, there's someone in rotation. Next man up, right? Isn't that what they coach? Isn't that what they recruit for? Well, the program needs to be built like that. Now, we're always talking about Alabama, other teams like that. But obviously, Mario saw this at Alabama. Because think about this. When Alabama, we got that one coach from Alabama, he lasted for 1 year. I can't remember his name. But did they shake in their boots? I mean, coaches leave Alabama all the time. Do they shake? Nope. Next person up. Do you hear much of them going outside of the organization, filling those roles? Most of it is next person is moving up. Occasionally they may hire into the position, but the people that they're hiring is to backfill the bench. All right. So I think it's absolutely brilliant. And the way that you look at it and really give kudos is not the names or the resumes. It's the strategy of the structure. The strategy of the structure. So that's my view and thoughts on that.
That's fantastic. And I couldn't agree with you more. In this particular case, I think he's done both. It's the strategy and the structure, and then he's got the resumes to back him up, which means that he has the financial backing. Well, because that's the bottom line.
It is.
We could never listen. You and I joked about it. Okay, Charlie Strong, great example. The most surprising hire. There's the two most surprising hires, in my opinion, after Mario, okay, was Mattis at Michigan. Big time. That guy is big time. And then Charlie Strong. Really? You got a guy who's the head coach at Texas. You got a guy who has a stellar background. Those to take an assistant coaching position, you got to be kidding me. So those two hires, in my opinion, were just blockbuster hires. Now, I look at the continuity like you're talking about. There's another tie, and I'm going to play the clip reel here that you'll see that I was stunned at the amount of connections. If you go through the threads, and what I want the viewers to listen to in Frank Ponce's upcoming commentary here, and Robert, I want you to comment on it afterwards, is he's going to weave in his comments the threads of the local South Florida ties and how that imparts into recruiting. And listen, another one, Jason Taylor. Jason Taylor comes from a head coaching position at one of the local high schools to a consulting position. You know that the kids are going to follow him, and you know that if you want to be the best defensive end in the nation, you're going to want to be aligned with a guy like Jason Taylor, who's a Hall of Famer. For crying out loud, you got two Hall of Famers. You got Ed Reed and Jason Taylor on the staff. It's impressive. So without saying any much more, I'm going to go ahead and play this and then get your thoughts afterward. Here we go.
You have to be dialed in the offense. I have to be in the same page with Coach Gaddis, is what his thought process is. And he's got an excellent offense that he's displaying right now in spring ball. And I am an extension of him with the quarterbacks. So as far as the teaching, that doesn't change. The only difference, again, is you're not calling the plays, but you're still coaching the quarterbacks on how to run the plays and do the things that you need them to do to be successful.
Do you think Coach Gaddis said last week or 2 weeks ago that he'd like to have that separation where there's a quarterbacks coach and an offensive coordinator? You don't have to worry about wearing both hats. Do you find that to be helpful? That you kind of focus on just coaching the quarterbacks?
Absolutely. And because you have to really be detailed with your position and help those guys develop fundamentally a lot more. As a coordinator, you got more responsibilities at times, and that kind of takes a little bit away from you for the most part. But overall, it's something that has been working great.
Just a quick comment on what he just said, because you and I talked about it many times, and you used to complain about it a lot, rightly so. He is strictly the quarterback's coach. He's not OC/quarterback's coach. He's not OC/quarterback coach. That's wide receiver coach. He is strictly the coach for the quarterbacks who gets direction from Gaddis, who's the OC. I think that's super important. And a guy who has OC experience. So anyway, I just wanted to make that quick comment. But
yeah,
we talked about that.
It's going to continue to work great for us. It's like I said, we got a great staff and the whole as an organization. But offensively, we have a great staff and everyone extremely bright and everybody does a great job.
Frank, in coaching, typically egos come into play, and guys who have become coordinators don't necessarily want to make the kind of move you're making here to be part of the staff and be part of the team in general. Why was it appealing to you, and where are you hoping this leads you as you move forward in your career?
Well, the main thing is obviously we're home. We're coaching at home, and obviously our head football coach, and just being part of his organization and the way he runs things and do things. You want to grow as a coach. And then there's a plan, there's goals for each one of us. And one of the plans that I want to be able to develop myself as a coach and in the future, get myself better to be in a better situation. And I think with Coach Cristobal and the rest of the staff, you have the opportunity to do so.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.
One of the things, and I apologize because I heard it in another interview with the offensive line coach. And his name slips my mind, the little guy who's the O-line coach. Him and Frank Ponce were very close and competing and teaching. And the thing that he's talking about at the end, where he said, okay, I want to be in a position to move up in my career, whether that's up at OC or up and out. Okay. So I think part of the candor when you're confident, okay, when you're a team builder and you're a confident individual, is you're talking about every individual's progression. All right. So you're not trying to keep a guy as an OC for the rest of his life or as a quarterback coach. No, you're saying, here's how we're going to help you move and progress to extend your career and go forward. And I think that's a fabulous part about it. But I wanted to share that with you, and I wanted to get your thoughts because Charlie Strong is a local Florida guy. Cristobal is a Florida guy. Frank Ponce is a Florida guy. The offensive line coach, and man, I'm embarrassed because he slips my name now. I can't remember his name, but anyway, local Florida guy who coached with Mario. All these people, to your point, when we were talking before, have threads. If you go back, whether it be at Alabama, at FIU, where all their paths have crossed together. So he's networked a team of coaches that is probably, and nationwide, they're talking about it, at the very least considered one of the best, if not the best in the ACC. And it would rival most teams in the SEC. Okay. So I think it's an amazing thing. And again, you and I have talked about this, and you've always hit on it, and you've been correct. There could be a talent gap because 5-stars do make a difference. However, you've always said we're not coaching them up. And your evidence for that, and you've always thrown it at me, which is true, is Frank, how is it that they go on to get drafted in the NFL in the 3rd and 4th round and become starters? They're not even 1st-round picks, and yet they end up becoming starters, but because it's coaching. So I couldn't agree with you more. And I want to also get your thoughts on the development of the squad as we're starting to see it come together. Remember, they brought a transfer portal cornerback who's going to take the opposite of Stevenson to be a starter. So they're filling in some of the gaps. They got the offensive lineman from Oregon who's going to fill in, and they're looking at putting that cohesion together. And now they're looking at bringing in a defensive end from UCLA who's making a decision today. And he's supposed to be a high caliber, high motor guy who they say would probably come in and start immediately. And then Ja'Cory Brown, I wish in our next video, I'm going to bring up film because, Robert, you're going to be stunned. Tyler Van Dyke is a big man. You and I agree. He's big. He's 6'4". He's solid. Ja'Cory towers over him. Not towers, but he's at least 2 inches taller. Wow. I know they say 6'5", but he's a massive, massive kid. And so the future is bright. But let me get those points from you on what we just discussed as far as the local South Florida ties, the coaching trees, okay, and how important coaching is, and the culture. You just did a business. You just reorganized a business unit that you supervise, that you manage, that you're a director for. So as you're looking at that from those eyes, from that prism, okay, share with me a little bit more about how that mirrors the business philosophy and with the culture, the talent, and being able to bring it, because you guys have a product. Your product in your business group has to be high quality. I mean, if you don't have the product, you could have all the culture you want. It's not going to sell. But if you just have the product and you don't have the culture and the structure, you're not going to sell either, because you've got to be able to develop it. You've got to be able to, through marketing and what have you. But anyway, let's hear your thoughts on that.
So, yeah, just building on that just a little bit more. Yeah, during restructuring, right, you're building an organization, right? And you're not building it around your existing talent, right? You're building an organization to compete, to succeed, and to sustain, right? Basically, that's what an organization should be doing as far as their structure, as far as how they do business, so on and so forth. So in my business, I restructured. Now, the people who are a part of that business, I have to see and evaluate and determine what is the best fit. What are some of the skill gaps? What are some things that needs to be done in order for them to fit within the organization? Now, the opposite of that, you don't want to do. Say, okay, these are the people I have today. These are their skill sets. So let's build an organization around them. No, because those skill sets and those things, those gaps you're trying to address or somewhat avoid may not work. So how does that work for this football team? Mario he already has an idea of what he wants to do with this team. Does he build his coaching staff and everything around based on what he has currently? No, he's building to compete, right? To be successful and something that is sustainable, right? That whole redundancy thing. So as you look at and consider what it is that will make this coaching staff successful, hopefully, is the notion that it is a long-term view and it is something that he believes that is needed in order for, one, to attract the right talent, to develop the right talent, and to play the folks who are talented and who are competing and so on and so forth, creating that competitive environment. So, yeah, much like a business, very much aligned, runs in parallel. You're setting up your structure. You know what has to be done. You evaluate what you currently have as a staff or as personnel, and then you go from there, right? So as far as the local threads, right? I think that, yeah, that plays, and I think it could have been part of the value prop that Mario had presented to the guys. But I think more importantly, you know, money, of course, is there. You know, no one's going to come here for peanuts. So let's just say, you know, that's the baseline, that the money is there. The other thing that they believe, and I believe they can win it all.
Mhm.
They're there because they're believing that they believe that they can win it all. So I'm thinking that it's more than just a short stay. They must believe that what he's putting together and what Miami has in terms of talent, or what could be talent in the next year or two. Listen, next year, and I know we haven't gotten to this topic yet, minimum, or yeah, it's a colossal failure. And I know that you're gonna get a lot of responses on this. ACC Coastal, I mean, that's a given.
Mm-hmm.
With the talent we currently have and the staffing we have. Now, I'm not saying that we win the ACC,
Mm-hmm.
but to be playing in the ACC next year, come on. How far were we last year with what we had in coaching? We got all this, the hype, and we talk about how good this coaching staff is. That's past. Now is about what have you done for us lately? I mean, let's just be honest. If they go 7-5 next year, this coaching staff will be considered trash.
Yes.
Not by me.
Mm-hmm.
I would just say, well, they just got a lot more to do. I mean, I'm very patient when it comes to coaches. A lot of my buddies would tell you that I kind of hold on to coaches a little bit too long.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're not in the ACC championship next year, so I say that because I think that the hype, we got to catch up to the hype. I think the hype has outpaced us, and that's a dangerous place to be, particularly with expectations. So that's where I'm at on those things.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. I think part of the evaluation process, though, because right now I think, by the way, as an aside, I saw something that was very interesting. It was a commentary that they were installing the offense over, and I believe they're doing the same thing with the defense, that they're installing the offense and defense, and the kids are actually having to adapt and comprehend and ingest about 1.5 inches worth of plays per day. So they're moving them at a fast pace. And I started thinking about that. And what that tells me is that part of the evaluation process is they want to see if your passion is for football, if you're dedicated enough to get into the film room and study, if you're dedicated enough to go and do the things that they're asking you to do. One of the offensive line coach, and I apologize because the name is
his name slips.
He praised DJ Scaife, okay, because he said that every time they gave him teaching and coaching, he would implement it on the field immediately. And they're staying after class to learn, to do film study. My whole point on this is that the level of competition, I think part of the strategy is we're throwing the playbook at you in increments, but they're challenging increments. 1.5 inches of paperwork here, there. There are guys that are going to fall behind that have talent, but don't have the commitment. This is a challenge that if that means you got to stay up till 1 o'clock in the morning learning it, you got to stay up till 1 o'clock in the morning learning it. So what they're doing is I think they're separating the men from the boys. And I think that we're going to have a completely different culture in that they want to beat you physically in the third and fourth quarter like Alabama did. They've been talking about that. They want to have a roster that their opposition says we can hang with these guys for, 1 or 2 quarters, but in the third quarter, they're saying, okay, I'm checking out, which is what we've done. When we played Alabama, we hung in there for maybe a quarter, and then that was it. Okay, we played Michigan State. We hung in there for 2 quarters. That was it. It was over. So what I'm seeing now is that they're building a culture with strength and conditioning and everything else to do that. Then you tie together the South Florida and the recruiting threads and the credibility of these coaches coming from different programs, because Charlie Strong has been in Alabama. Cristobal's been in Alabama. Frank Ponce, he's not been there, but several of the coaches have been through that Alabama tree, and they've won national championships, and they know how to win. One of the defensive backs coaches from Georgia. Okay, so we've and they won a national championship. We have now got a staff that knows what it's doing, and with the NIL, and I'm going to throw this out to you because I'm still stunned. A 5-star kid just committed to Tennessee about 3 days ago, and he got an $8 million NIL deal. I mean, that's just that's incredible. So everything has changed. So let's think going forward. I'm now convinced, you're going to think I'm crazy, but I'm now convinced. I don't think that Chaney or the Rooster are going to start. I think the kid that's going to start is the kid from Mississippi State, the kid that they brought in through the transfer portal, because he's got 2 years of SEC football. He's got, in other words, he's built to take a pounding, even though he's smaller. And I think you're going to see it's all going to be about guts and courage and being able to stay healthy. And you mentioned it to me with what's his name, Mallory. Mallory gets hurt. And listen, we feel bad for Mallory, but Mallory's been injured in and out all the time. Guess what? Well, you got 2 young tight ends that are studs. Skinner that just came in, and you got Arroyo. Mallory's going to have a hard time getting back on the field. This is his senior year, right? This is it. And he may not get any time. And then at one point, if you miss 2 or 3 games, your coaching shifts. You're like, okay, I'm not going to have this guy for the last for next year. You're going to start spending more time on the kids you're developing that have the raw talent that are superior. So I wanted to ask you, based on all of that, as we look forward, what are the games that you see that you would be comfortable? And we're never comfortable. I'm not going to say that you're going, but you would understand that that would be the biggest challenges, that we could end up with a loss in the loss column in the schedule coming up, that you can say, okay, I can deal with that going forward. And, as long as we get to the ACC championship, and I'm with you on the ACC championship, you got to win the Coastal. If you win the Coastal, it's an utter failure. Yeah. It's like you brought all in these free agents and all this coaching and all this money, and I'm with you too. You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater because it's only 1 year. But I really believe that the pressure is to win the Coastal. And I also think, to be honest with you, if you end up in the championship game, because right now Clemson coaching staff is all new. Okay, they put together, and I'm not saying that I don't think that they are better than the coaching staff Mario's put together. I could be wrong. I'll throw that out there. But I think to say they don't have a Charlie Strong, they don't have a Mattis, they don't have I see what you said. He's building a mini Alabama down in South Florida as far as the structure. So what are the games that you think, all right, we could lose and still win? And what are the games that you think we should win?
Well, I'll just say the games that we're going to have trouble. The obvious ones would be Texas A&M. That is going to be a tough game for us. If I was to give an L, it will go there. Clemson, despite what you just shared, there's still a strong culture of winning there. The head coach is still there. I think that they're going to be tough, and I think it's going to be tough to beat them in Death Valley. So I see a loss there. I see another loss. Now, people say, oh, here you go. Last year, no one thought, and I said Florida State is a game that I was concerned about. And sure enough, we lost that game. And I'll say it again this year. I'm concerned about Florida State still, and I'm concerned about North Carolina. Despite the fact that their quarterback has moved on and all that, those 2 teams just got me. However, I think that we will come out of next year no more than 3 losses. No. That's my gut. Now, as we get closer to the season, I'll give a more detailed prediction, but that's my way too early. thoughts on that, but definitely A&M and Clemson are going to be tough games for us.
It's interesting you say that because A&M, it's a tough place to play. It really is. And A&M finished last year 8-4. Okay. Now they had the number 1 recruiting class in the country, but you're not going to have kids come in and start immediately. You may have 1 or 2, but they're not going to impact.
They're not going to be the ones on impact next year.
Right. Exactly. So A&M, I actually think they have a chance at pulling up a surprise. I'm not saying they will. Where I differ with you is with Florida State and North Carolina. And Florida State, the reason I differ with you on Florida State is because last year we lost on a last-second pass with a defense that was totally disorganized, safeties in the back, and they threw it. It was a mental error, and they got off to a slow start. I just don't see that happening. I think this staff is substantially better. I mean, by degrees better than the FSU staff. I mean, by degrees. I mean, I think there's a big difference. Now at Clemson, I agree with you. Where I think there could be some opportunities for us is who replaced Venables, their defensive coordinator, the new coach that's coming in. He's not going to be as good as Brent Venables was as DC. And they're going to have a whole new different defense. They also got a whole new offense coming in. So they're installing all new systems like we are. Even though a lot of the offense is kind of similar to what we had before. And it is in Death Valley. So I see that. But North Carolina, I actually look for North Carolina, even though they had a good recruiting class, I actually look for North Carolina to take a step or 2 back. I don't think I could not excuse a loss to FSU. I could excuse a loss to North Carolina. So I could see North Carolina, Texas A&M, because it's a tough game. I like the fact that it's the 4th game or 3rd game that gives us time. And I could also see Clemson because it's at Death Valley. Now with Clemson, we're hoping there'd be a rematch. And I don't know who they have on their side of the division. They could challenge them.
North Carolina State. North Carolina State is going to come back strong this year.
Oh yeah, Robert, you're right.
North Carolina State.
Oh yeah,
was very close. Yeah.
Yes, you're 100% right. So if Miami wins the ACC conference, there's a possibility that they make it into the Final Four, depending on how many losses. If they go with 2 losses and win the ACC, they're pulling out of 5 conferences, the 4 teams. So it'll be interesting to see. So I'll tell you what, I'll bet you a steak dinner that we beat FSU.
Hold it until August. Let's save all these steak dinners and bets and all that until August, right? Don't show your hand just yet.
All right. But I got to tell you, I think they're gonna embarrass FSU next year, and
because FSU is here.
FSU
I mean, it's in Miami.
It's in Miami. Right. Not only that, I think that what they're going to do, I think FSU is similarly constructed as the old Miami was. They've got good skilled talent. I don't believe in their quarterback. That was what I call a chiripa pass. It was a lucky pass. Okay. It was, he got lucky. He's a good quarterback. I don't think he's a great quarterback.
Yeah.
Okay? I think we have a huge advantage, but I think they're weak where we're weak on the D line, O line. Actually, they're better than us with backers. I think defensive backs, I think we've improved, but I really think that if our offensive line gets the kind of coaching that they should be getting, and they will, I think they will be able to dominate in the 3rd and 4th quarter, and it won't be a 1-possession game. I do not think we go into Florida State into the 4th quarter with a 1-possession game. I think when we get into the 4th quarter, it's a 3 possession. They're gonna have to score 3 times I think we're gonna go with a 17-point lead into the 4th quarter. That's just how I probably gonna be totally wrong, but that's how I kind of see it. Because I don't see them changing that philosophy with the guys up front yet, at least having the personnel. So it'll be interesting. But with that being said, I know you've got a busy day, and I want to thank you, Robert, for taking time out of your schedule. And I want to make sure that everybody hits the like button, subscribe, and share these videos with you. And we'll be bringing you some more exciting content as we go along. And we hope to get some more of the coaches' comments as we go through spring training and we look at the spring game. We'll do a complete analysis of the spring game, because once the spring game is done and we go into summer, you pretty much know who's going to be starting and who's going to be, because they've got to get they're installing the game. They're installing their game plans, their philosophy, not game plans, but their offensive structures and defensive structures. Now, if you're not there for spring, you're not going to be a mainline contributor, in my opinion, unless you've been a contributor already. In other words, you're going to come in the summer and the positions you're going to be vying for second team or third team. You're not going to come in and step in first team, because they're going to give the reps to the first teamers, and that'll be established, I think, after the spring. We'll see what happens. But anyway, brother, God bless you, man. You
Let's
and the
go.
family.
Let's go. Let's go.
And a shout out to Hunter and his wedding nuptials coming up, and the you. God bless you, man. Hunter.
Yep. Baby boys.
That's so
big
awesome.
step. So we're really, really excited for him and Haley. So exciting times. And a shout out to the basketball team, right? Sweet 16. Sweet 16. So we'll definitely be checking them out. Here we go. So we'll see. All right.
We'll catch up with you later, and we'll do it soon. God bless.
All right.
Peace out.
Later. Bye.